All right, let's do this. Listen, Ben made a terrible video about Barbie. He didn't even watch it. It's abundantly clear that he didn't even watch it. He just disliked it for the sake of disliking something that was made for women. Yeah, they had some preachy social justice narratives. I made a whole reaction on it, but overall, it was solid. I thought it was a good movie. Ken was the best part of the movie. I liked the fact that they talked about how a male-dominated society is just as bad as a female-dominated society by criticizing Barbie's female-dominated society. I liked it.
Whoa.
I thought it was decent. I'm going to put it in the description. You should watch it. It's very long. It's only like 2 hours, so it's okay. But now Ben debated himself, younger and women. I don't really understand. I think that this is fake because I'm pretty sure they're the same person. Never seen them in the same room together. And I think that this is actually just trying to get us to think that they're not the same person. But I'm pretty sure that this is the same person. I think, but maybe not. But anyway, let's watch it. Brett Cooper was apparently a really big fan of it. So let's see what we got here.
Section, and also a fan of Brett Cooper. She's the host of the wildly popular comments section, and also a fan of both Greta Gerwig and the Barbie film. So Brett,
I wonder if there's something that conservatives enjoy about Ben Shapiro's aesthetic, because they enjoy Ben a lot and they enjoy Brett a lot, and I wonder if there's like something there, like they have like the perfect facial structure, head structure. It's like that's appealing to conservative people. Like you know what I mean? Like what is it about them? You know, in the same way that, like, for whatever reason, lefties only like beta males to tell them beta white guys with blue hair to tell them about their stuff. I don't know. I'm just making a little joke. Let's see.
I have to ask you, you're sitting there wearing, for those who can't see, a pink sweatshirt and a hat reading "Make America Hot Again." And I have to ask you, you apparently liked the Barbie movie.
I enjoyed it.
So I'm wondering if maybe you
I think women liked it more because it was a movie for women, right? So
saw another movie.
we were telling women to stop trying to infect our male movies, so make your own. And they did, and now Ben's crying.
But you thought it was the Barbie movie.
I did not. And you know what? And I watched your 43-minute review, and you made a lot of excellent points. And
No, he didn't. He didn't watch the video at all.
I told my audience that, and I told them that you made excellent points
No, he
because you were right about the plot. It was not the greatest film in terms of its construction at all.
Well, yeah, the plot wasn't perfectly structured because it was like a comedy. Most comedies aren't structured particularly well. This is a point that I had made. Now, they're not structured poorly, but like look at the old school comedies. Like a lot of times, it's like the priority is making the person like what's happening. Like again, what if I was a guy who had to do 1st through 12th grade? Like what is it? Is that Billy Madison? Or I forgot which movie. It's an Adam Sandler movie. I forgot what it's called. But it was a good movie. But it's weird and it ends bizarre and it doesn't make any sense. But that's why we like it, right? Like it's meant to be like a comedy and then it has some structure around it. Like it wasn't perfect, but it was still an entertaining, funny movie. It was good. So
It was very, very messy. But you can't deny that it was fun.
it was definitely
It was
fun.
colorful. It was a great
True.
time.
Oh, I can.
I know. I shouldn't have said that. I know you can deny it. Do you like musicals, Ben? Do you like musicals?
I love me. I
Oh,
do
we
love
talked
musicals.
about that.
In fact, I know musicals. Yes, you and I talked
Bro,
about this.
I
I love
the
musicals.
musical scene in that movie was incredible.
But in order for a musical to be good, it has to have more than one song, and that song has to be good.
The song
And then the
was
other song-
good. What are you talking about? I'm Knuff? Dude, what the heck? This guy is on fucking... This is how I know he didn't watch it. That musical was incredible. Literally, the movie ended after that musical for me. I was like, I feel this is great. I loved it when it was over. I'm like, okay, I kind of tuned out a little bit of this movie. It's a fucking musical, so good.
They use is just a rip of a 1990s rock song.
So
That is
what?
true. I read about
There are
that.
two songs. There's one that's like a rip of a 1990s rock song, and then there is a large-scale musical number that is just basically rammed in, sort of like Singing in the Rain, where they're like, we have to have a musical singing sequence. We're just going to ram this in here.
Oh,
And so they
'cause
basically
Singing
do
in
that
the
with
Rain.
Ken dolls, and all the Ken dolls are dancing around, and in a song that, by the way, Brett, I challenge you right now. You have a beautiful voice.
Okay.
You liked this.
Yeah.
Sing me the song.
Which song?
The one where
Sing it
it's
to me. Sing me the song.
Ken, oh no, I am Ken. That was basically all I remember, to be
Okay.
fair.
Right, so it's not a good song.
What? How does it make it not a good song? Because you don't remember the specifics. What? I'm not understanding the criticisms, Ben. What makes it a bad song? Because she doesn't remember it fucking word for word. It was fun and decent and entertaining. Oh, I'm gonna die. Like I don't remember it either. I've listened to it once, but it was fun in the context of the movie.
It was fun.
Because if it
all
were a
I'm
good song,
saying,
you could sing it
all
to me.
I'm saying, Ben,
What?
Is that I enjoyed watching it. It was silly. It was one of those films where I went in.
I swear, the reason Ben thinks this, and I don't mean to be insensitive, is because he has, like, I think that he's on the spectrum, and I think that if he likes something, he just watches it and listens to it over and over and over again until, like, he memorizes it. And I think that's why he's like, oh, if something's good, you'll watch it 1,500 times in a day. So why don't you know all the words of the song? I swear to God, that's the only explanation. I'm sorry. That's it.
And I was worried about it because I had seen so many people be upset about it. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And you know what? They spent $150 million on advertising, and that advertising was great because you know what? I was bought in. And I truly did think that it was like an escape in a lot of ways because it felt totally different than anything I'd seen in a while. It kind of reminded me of La La Land, which was objectively much better than Barbie, but in the same way that it was very, you know, out of this world and colorful. And I think I had just missed seeing something that was bright on screen because you go and you watch movies and TV shows these days and every single one is dark and dreary and sad and depressing. And it was just nice to sit around people who were laughing and having a good time. My producers came with me. We were laughing our asses off. The audience was so excited, and it was like, wow, this felt really, really cool. Like, there was that one moment, and I don't know if you'll get this part or not, but they were joking about, like, the anxiety-ridden Barbies, and they were talking about, like, the real-world women, and they were saying, oh, she's just lying in her bed watching the BBC adaptation of Pride and Prejudice, which is my very favorite, and objectively, it is the best adaptation of Pride and Prejudice. The entire audience filled with women burst into laughter. And
I laughed at that, because it was more, to me, it was more fundamental that, like, women will be depressed and then go on Instagram all day. Like, it was like, oh, you'll just watch the same show basically over and over again that you've already watched, and you'll just be on Instagram like snooping on other people's lives. That's exactly what my wife does. That's women. It's a funny little stereotype. It's a dig at girls. Like, it's taking shots at women. It doesn't immortalize women to make them perfect. It makes fun of them for like some silly stuff. Like, that's what resonated so much with me. Like, I thought it was funny. Like, I'm gonna die. I think that's not funny though. Okay.
Everybody was like slapping their boyfriends, being like, look, it's me. Like, I watched that. And I think that that's just a very cool shared experience. Now, regardless of whether the film is going to win any...
I can't tell you how many times my wife's upset because she feels like the house isn't clean enough. And so what she does is that she just goes on her phone for like 3 hours. Like, I don't understand the response. I don't get how you respond, like, do that. I don't really, that doesn't make sense to me.
Words, or whether it will be acclaimed, because it really is not the most high quality film. I think it was cool to be able to sit in an audience with a bunch of women who were just enjoying laughing at this, because it did speak to a lot of very feminine things, which I think is good in itself.
Okay, so fair enough. Okay, so a few things. One, yes, it's very colorful. The production design is the one thing about the movie that I said was good.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the production, to be fair, I did say in my review, like, at the very opener, that the production design is good. But also, it's really hard to screw up a Barbie production design because literally the entire production design is Barbie.
That's true.
Right? I mean, like, it's just a big dollhouse. But put that aside for a second. There were, to me, about 5 laughs in the entire film, none provided by Will Ferrell, by the way, and none provided by Kate McKinnon, who are the 2 comedians in the film.
Like the humor.
And then, obviously, also, the politics of the film are completely screwed up. I know there's a bunch of now Straussian esoteric...
Not really screwed up. It's just like, what's so screwed up about, hey, like, we live in a society that's more male-dominated, and, like, it's true, and it's awesome. I love that part of our society. It's why I'm in it. No, but I don't think I'm gonna die because I'm a fucking moron. Like, what's wrong with, like, I don't get it. I think that Ben just perceives it as an attack on men anytime a woman says, hey, I have a problem. And that's the problem. If a woman's like, you know, I kind of am a little frustrated by this. It's like, oh, well, it's terrible. Oh, so you think that we should fucking become a matriarch? Oh, so you think women should run the show and you hate men and we should separate men from women because Barbie won't let Ken fuck her? Oh, it sounds like some propaganda. If she really should have just let him fuck her. That's how things should work. They had an arranged marriage because they were made for each other. Since they don't fuck, this is oppressive to men. Like, that's the fucking babbling fucking bullshit that you hear from Ben. That's what it really boils down to. Of like, well, Barbie and Ken are supposed to be together, just like my arranged marriage. Like, he's not in one, but you get my point. It's like, no. Oh, so they should be apart? No, the point is that, like, you should be able to choose, and Ken should have more identity than just like being Barbie's boyfriend. Like, that's the point. He just missed it because I don't think he watched it, right?
Esoteric readings of the film where Greta Gerwig is actually secretly conservative and she's actually critiquing feminism, but no. I mean, no. Like, the speech that America Ferrera gives about 2/3 of the way through the film.
That's so cringy.
In which she explained how rough it is to
it was cringy. And I think and I thought it was cringy. And my wife was like, yeah, I thought it was, I identified with it, but also I thought it was cringy because, like, shut up. Like, that was what she said. She's like, and we're going to talk about it on our podcast tomorrow. What? There's a podcast? Rob and Dan in the description? That's crazy. But it was like, it was on the nose, and it can be perceived as like nobody wants somebody to collect all the things that they feel like are they're doing wrong and to tell them at once. Like, if your partner is doing something wrong, Because both men and women make mistakes. Nobody wants to hear like, oh, here are all the ways in which you're like a bad. Oh, your mother's a fucking piece of shit. Jesus Christ. Nobody wants to hear a list of all the ways that you're bad, right? But so that's part of the reason I had a reaction to it. I was like, oh, this is stupid.
It is the most cringy thing that has been put on screen for probably 10 years. It's unbelievably cringy. And the entire kind of notion that the patriarchy is ruling all. So first of all, I will point out at this point that you say you went with all your producers and they were laughing their asses off. So either our producers are incredibly well matched to our shows, which is quite possible, or they are also pressing their actual feelings about the film on one side or the other. Because I also went with my producers. Jobs correctly. And aside from Zach, who slow clapped the America Ferrera speech, no,
he did not.
Everybody else, I will say, he did. He slow clapped it in the theater. It was really funny. But that was the funniest thing that happened actually in the theater was Zach slow clapping the America Ferrera terrible speech. But yes, the politics of the film are completely askew because the entire basis of the film is that the real world is a complete patriarchy, so magically patriarchal that Ken learns from it and goes back to Barbie Land, where he then applies the patriarchal standards of the real world to Barbie Land. And the only solution is that to create paradise is that men and women must be separated from one another and cannot.
That's not at all what the movie was. This is how I know he didn't watch it. Like, that wasn't the tone of the movie at all. That we should separate men and women at all. It makes a negative. It talks about how the patriarchy and a matriarchy are bad, and that they need to meet in the middle in some capacity. That's what the movie says.
Actually have interactions. Now, I do think that Greta Gerwig can't actually hold this thesis because the thesis is unsupportable. Like the underlying message of the film, ironically enough,
like it's crazy that she's not pushing back. That's not communicated at all. He's insane.
Is actually very conservative in the sense that everyone is deeply unhappy.
Yeah.
Right. Barbie is deeply unhappy in Barbie Land. Ken is deeply unhappy in Barbie Land. Everybody is deeply unhappy. In the real world, everybody is deeply unhappy. Okay. There's no actual family in the film. Right. The only family is the mom and the daughter.
Yep.
The mom is unhappy. The daughter is unhappy, and the dad is basically absent. He's there. He's in the film for literally 5 seconds. They can make a throw.
Well, he's not absent at all. He's absent in the movie. He's not absent as a father. So it sounds like that's what you're insinuating, but he's not. But okay.
Joke about him not being able to speak Spanish.
Yeah.
And the final image of the film, which is Barbie going to the gynecologist because apparently she grew a vagina. Which, I mean,
yes, Ben, that was what the movie was about. Barbie's end game was that she became a human, so she got a vagina. Did you watch the movie, bro?
Well, super transphobic. And apparently what made Barbie a woman was the growing of the vagina, right? I mean, that's literally...
No, what made her a real person was having genitals. What are you talking about? It's like I gotta get a dunk. Oh, so you're saying you need a vagina to be a woman? No, but you usually need genitals to be a person, right? And it was just a sign that they were a person. I'm assuming she grew nipples too. I don't know.
What happens? The very end of the film, she goes to the gynecologist.
The end of the film is awful. It is terrible.
It's not awful. It's just not. I didn't care for it. But also, comedies end like shit almost every single time. Almost all comedies have terrible endings because it's more about the scene than it is about like anything else. So it takes a while to get there. You know, it's more about like what's going on, and then they kind of like the overall thing is like an afterthought. So,
the beginning of the film is terrible because if they wanted to make a true critique, here's the thing: you can't make a true critique of Barbie, except if you say that what Barbie actually is a commodification of femininity and a reduction of femininity into the purely physical, and that requires.
I feel like they made that point. No, that's what the kid was saying, and then she started rambling about fascism, and you said she was stupid, but that's what she said. What? Okay, whatever.
You to then ask, okay, what else is a woman beside a man? And then the only answer to that would be, like getting married and having kids. And that's the one thing they can't do because at the very opener, they throw that away.
Yep, they smashed the
So the real question is, like...
what?
Right, so...
Because they made fun of the only pregnant Okay, whatever.
The real question is, what are they saying that women are? Because at the end of the movie, Barbie goes from being... it's Pinocchio. She goes from being plastic Barbie to real woman. But what is real woman? And their answer is a vagina.
Well, they don't know.
Which, by the way, again, super transphobic.
Why?
Right.
No, she grew... There's no way that you're this stupid. Literally, the whole movie is about her becoming more human. Originally, she has no thoughts. She wants to be a vapid nobody that has a consistent same life every single day. And then she starts to cry and experience emotions and complicated emotions. And the vagina was just like the last aspect of it. But overall, it was much more than just like, oh, so you want to get a vagina? That's not what it was ever about. You fucking dick. That's never what it was about. Like, ever. It was about much more than that. So like that's just not accurate to the movie. What is he talking about? Oh, so it's just about having vagina. That sounds deeply transphobic. No, it was about building emotions. It talks about what it means to be a human. That was just an aspect of it, was growing genitals because she was a fucking plastic Barbie with no vagina. What are you talking about? They even had a trans woman in it. And the guys that were ogling and hitting on her at one point in the beginning of the movie when she said that she doesn't have a vagina and he doesn't have a penis, they're like, okay, that's fine. Like, they didn't even care. Like, they weren't even transphobic. Like, what are you talking about? There's no way. There's no way. He's just complaining. Or he's dumb. I don't know. Or he just doesn't get it. I guess I can't put too much expectations on him to understand anything or try to, like, get it. I don't know.
I think that they don't know. And I think that was part of the plot that felt not very thought out, because it was, all up and down. And I absolutely agree with you that everybody was unhappy. And that was one of the more endearing parts of the film for me, because, you know, Ken found that, you know, this patriarchy that he brought into Barbie Land or whatever was not actually fulfilling. And that was not actually, you know, fixing anything in his life. Barbie was not happy once she had seen the real world and had, you know, then restored matriarchy in Barbie Land. And even after that had happened, she wasn't happy. And I think the most endearing part for me, even though the ending was way too long and the part with Ruth Handler, who's the creator of Barbie, was very, very weird. That white room was very, very odd.
Yeah,
but I did think it was endearing that even after the perfect matriarchy in Barbie Land had been restored.
But that's not even true, right? So, like, again, we didn't watch the film. She didn't watch the film because they didn't restore the perfect matriarchy. I should not have went in here. I knew it. Fucking shouldn't have. It's fucking me in the ass. They didn't restore they restored a matriarchy, but they even literally they fucking hit you in the face with it. Will Ferrell's character says, "Oh, go back to normals. This way we can sell stuff." And then the black president was like, "No, I think what we want some changes." And then they gave the men some rights, and then they made a joke about how maybe one day the men will have as many rights, which still aren't equal in the Barbie society, that the women do in our society. But they didn't want the same thing to go back. Like, they don't even know about the fucking movie. They didn't even watch the fucking movie. I don't get it. Or maybe it was just flashing lights. Like, maybe somebody could have just jangled keys in front of them. They would have been like, oh, and they would have... I don't know.
Barbie then chose to go to the real world, which is apparently a patriarchy. And I think, to me, as a viewer, I looked at that and I went, oh, she's choosing, like, the human experience. She's choosing to live in a world that maybe is not perfect, because our world is not perfect.
Right, which would them being saying that our world isn't horrible, and she just wanted to be human and experience that emotion and change. Okay, whatever.
And I thought that was interesting. I don't know what your take is on that, but I walked away from that, even though the ending would drag on for way too long. I left thinking, okay, maybe that was something that was kind of redeeming and that I could, you know, appreciate. Also, with the America for Our speech, I watched that and it was so cringe and so contrived, but which it was. But I don't think that everything that she said was wrong if you looked at it just based on humans in general. And that's obviously not the point that they were trying to make. But as I was
What do you mean? Why not?
Sitting there listening to it, I was thinking about both men and women listening to that speech.
Okay.
And just talking about, you know, the complexities of being human and how, you know, you can't always get it right. And it's hard to know the right things to do when people have expectations for you. And it just felt like a very human speech. And it sucks that they made it all about women and said, oh, you know, it's so hard to be a woman. These are all the reasons why. It's like, no, those are not the reasons why it's hard to be a woman. Those are just the reasons why it's hard to be a human being.
A lot of those are reasons why it's hard to be a woman. They just didn't represent men in those reasons.
So I think they missed the mark on something that could have actually been, if it had not been a really cringe monologue.
Like, one of them was that a woman is expected to be a mother without being a mommy. Like, you know what I mean? Which is kind of true. Women are expected to take over the roles of women, of the man's mother. Right? And generally that's kind of what's going to happen. Because a father is supposed to show her daughter how a man should treat her, and a mother is supposed to show her son how a woman should treat him. You know? So my wife said a lot of it's frustrating, but she feels like the general dynamic isn't bad. It's just something to be frustrated by. But she even said to me, she's like, if I didn't have that though, if I couldn't take care of you in that way, I don't know if I'd feel as fulfilled. Right? So sometimes we just like to complain about some of the problems that we have.
It could have been an interesting point for both men and women. So that is where I rest my case on that monologue.
The only solution. So here's my big problem. Because everything is refracted through the prism of a secular feminist outlook, everything in the movie is refracted through that prism. The obvious solutions that are available are completely put aside. Right? I mean, the obvious solutions that are available, which would be like, you know, Barbie treating Ken like a normal human and Ken treating Barbie like a normal human.
Yes.
That's completely put aside because he has to treat
No, it's not.
her like woman and she has to treat him like man, but
they're
only in the
But at the end, she's like, hey, find yourself. So that's not even true.
And that's how Mattel created them.
Yes,
they're not actually humans.
But if the idea is that, understood, but if the entire idea is that these stereotypical Kens and stereotypical Barbies are stand-ins for what men and women are actually like, they're reductive, but they're stand-ins for what men and women are actually like, then theoretically, the solution is for them to be what men and women have always been to one another, which are partners, which they decide is not the solution.
No, they don't decide that that's not the solution. I think one of them was like, oh, I like this Barbie. We're cool together. And she's like, yeah, I like him too. Showing that they're still companionship in the Barbie world. But they're dolls. So they probably aren't going to fuck. And they don't have anything to fuck with, so... But just the main Barbie and the main Ken weren't right for each other. It's not an entire commentary. Okay, whatever.
Right, the end is that Barbie Land ends up being maintained.
No, it isn't. That's not the end.
Essentially subjugating the men. Right, the men have to go back to subjugation in order for Barbie Land to maintain.
Okay.
And her wanting to, you know, have the human experience, that would make sense if they actually explained what the human experience is. Now, I think Greta Gerwig sort of is.
It was having emotions and being more than a one-dimensional character. They explained all this. The problem is, I guess Ben expects you to explicitly explain, which is one thing that I liked about the Barbie movie, is it didn't insult the audience. Sometimes some of the shit was on the nose, but a lot of it was kind of like, it was a little more subtextual instead of having to tell us everything. I feel like Ben is desensitized by like movies nowadays telling us everything that's happening. Okay.
Trying to do that at the end. I think she's trying to buy back the entire movie in that montage at the end, where it just shows a bunch of moms and daughters and like the human experience and all of this, which I think is, frankly, cheap filmmaking. I think that it is basically her at the very end realizing she doesn't have any sort of message to the movie.
That part made me cry.
Made you cry. Okay, because
it made you cry? I thought it was so stupid and cheap. No, it resonated with women who played with fucking Barbie dolls, Ben. It's not everything's about you.
Yeah, that's why
he doesn't know how to separate him not enjoying something because it just doesn't appeal to him versus it being bad. He thinks if he doesn't like it, it has to be bad.
Cheap filmmaking, because she literally just gets a bunch of old home movies and she's like, look at the old lady and the old lady is with her kids. And that's okay,
I love that part.
If you're oh my god, if you're actually going to make that case, then the film they should have just made is Enchanted. Right? That would be the actual plot of the film. The actual plot of the film
I love that
would be
movie
that Barbie
too.
doesn't like Ken. She goes to the real world. She goes to the real world and she falls in love with a real guy. And yeah, the real world has all of its problems, but there's a real guy there who she wants to be with and have kids with, right? I mean, that would actually be a plot to the movie. Instead, we have no idea why she chooses to go back to the real world. Like, what is the reason? What is the reason? Like, apparently
she just felt like it, I guess. She just enjoyed it. She liked that it had flaws and she wanted to be a part of the real world. Whoa, this is fucking bananas.
I think that
she does have the feelings in Barbie world, by the way.
Yes.
She still has the feelings, right?
Yes.
When she goes back to Barbie world, she doesn't lose the feelings. She still has them.
Well, I think she's
so what's so
gotten
great about the real world? We never
Boy Pookie
I think
super chatted $19.99. I love you, Papa.
I love you too. Thank you.
what's great about the real world is that she has this, well, she started at the beginning of the film, you know, having thoughts of death, and she gets out of this.
I mean, you could argue the reason she went to the real world is because her owner instilled like the existential thoughts in her, and now that was just integral to her character. So
box basically, and where you only think about being Barbie and beach and all of that stuff, and she realizes the beauty of being human is being able to feel the wide range of human emotions and being able to have all of these
she wants to live more of a life of meaning,
full connections with people like America Ferrara, even though that's kind of a weird dynamic, but she gets to see what this mother-daughter relationship looks like. She is interacting with real people on a totally different level than she was interacting with people in Barbie Land. She's crying for the first time, which is just a funny scene, but you know, when she turns that old woman and says, "You're so beautiful," she's never seen an old woman before. And it obviously is very symbolic, but I think that she's getting a taste of what it means to be human, to not live in these, you know, comical extremes. I don't know. That's my take on it.
Right.
Well, you're more right than Ben.
Again, the problem that I have with the solution, because I think that you are right, that is what Greta Gerwig wants to do. The problem with the solution is that it's not actually a solution for any of her problems.
Yep.
How does she solve the irrepressible threat of death by going to the gynecologist? The answer is she doesn't.
I know that.
That wasn't really her problem, though. Like her... what? I mean, she does solve it, I guess, by learning to just be a human. And then, like, hey, that's just part of the buy-in to being a human being. Fuck, I can't even kill this kid. It's part of the buy-in to being a human being, right? So, oh, bitch. What's up, motherfucker?
Like I said, it was such a throwaway. It was a throwaway. We can agree on that. The ending was terrible. Right, and it ruined any important or
the movie's about family, just like Vin Diesel movie. I can't remember it.
Meaningful point that she was attempting to make.
The point was fine.
It's like even if she were trying to go for the thing, she is forbidden by the strictures of secular feminism from going for the thing. Right? She's forbidden the things that actually. Here's the thing: the entire movie is about having an irrepressible fear of death.
Yeah.
Okay, so
no, it's not. He's just making things up. It's not about having an irrepressible feeling of death. He's so fucking bro. You're a cartoon character. There's no way you think this. The movie isn't about having an irrepressible feeling of death. The movie is about Barbie becoming a fucking human being. That's what it's about. It's not about having an... No, it's just not. And it's about managing those emotions. Like, how do we deal with it as people? We just kind of learn to deal with it. We don't get fucking help from a team. What the fuck is happening with Steam? What is happening right now? Okay. Incredible.
The problem with the entire movie being about that is that
it's
you then
not
have
about
to have a solution to that. If the problem of the movie is Barbie has irrepressible thoughts of death, then presumably the answer to irrepressible thoughts of death is some sort of spiritual solution or familiar.
Oh my God, with
something.
fucking Steam.
Right? There has to be an actual solution that is posed. I mean,
I get it. He's inserting God into it because everything needs to be about fucking God. That's what it's really boiling down to at this point. No, Ben, that's not what it's about. It doesn't need to have that in it. Stop. You're making things up. It's not about the irrepressible feeling of death. It's just learning to become a human.
It's literally the problem of the film. And, that is what they say.
It's
There's a great book called The Denial of Death from the 1970s talking about how
maybe she should read it.
Basically all human beings are driven by the denial of death, right? That we just move every day in opposition to death, so we create heroic narratives about ourselves and things that we do to distract ourselves, and we have religious experiences and all of this.
And we create religions to distract ourselves.
But they don't even actually present any of that for Barbie. And so the problem is that the problem
No, but they do. They just don't. They're not on the nose with like, oh, it needs to be religious, spiritual. Her spirituality is going to come from her becoming a person and what it means to learn to be a person with human thoughts and feelings and experiences.
It's too big for the solution, right?
They, like,
and so if you're going to do that,
would never.
Right. Yeah. So if you're going to present the problem as irrepressible thoughts of death,
that's not what
then the
problem
answer
is.
that you and I would give as conservatives and religious people, theoretically,
okay.
would be probably...
there wasn't enough God in the film. That's his criticism. That's really what it boils down to. There's no... Jesus isn't in the fucking film. That's the whole criticism, guys. There's no Jesus. It's not for Mises. You know what I mean? That's pretty much what his criticism is at this point.
Church. Family, right? These would be like the answers to irrepressible fear of death. Is the way you overcome death is by progenerating and having children and grandchildren, right? It's not by being an old lady sitting on a park bench. It's by being an old lady who has grandchildren sitting on your porch, sitting next to the grandpa and watching as you progenerate into the future, right? Like that would actually, that's the part that I feel like she created a box for herself, and because that box was secular feminism, there was no way to escape it, just on an ideological level. And so the movie bounces around there, and then because it's bouncing around there, and because she feels she has to say all these dumb things about the patriarchy and how men rule the world and all of this kind of nonsense, like for all of that, I found obviously incredibly annoying because I think they didn't even. I get angry at lazy. I really get angry at lazy. And this is a lazy film. It is a lazy, lazy movie. Like they don't even bother to do basic exposition of what drives characters. So Barbie is driven by something, but we're not quite sure. She has irrepressible feelings about death. But that's supposed to be cured by her seeing America Ferrera, right? I mean, that's
no, it's not supposed to be cured. It's explained. It's okay.
The whole idea. She's going to go there. She's going to rectify. She's going to go back to Barbie Land and all the rest. And then,
why wasn't there a Jesus Barbie? What the fuck? This is ridiculous. This is insane. I can't believe they make this drivel. This fucking drivel. No Jesus Barbie?
And she sort of gives up randomly 2/3 of the way through the film.
No.
What drives, again, my biggest plot hole is the most obvious plot hole in the entire film, which is...
She literally wasn't going to die until she decided to become a human being. And then she knew that was the risk, but she wanted to have the human experiences because she found them to be more fulfilling than just being a fucking plastic person.
Ken takes over. He creates Kingdom, and for some reason decides to have a popular referendum on whether or not to take over. If it's a fascist patriarchy, why is there a vote?
The vote was only for men, Ben.
Yes.
If you come back in and you seize all power, why are you then providing for a vote with 48 hours notice?
That's funny.
But it was only the men were allowed to vote. Did you? That's the big part of the movie.
That is true. Okay.
It's idiotic. It makes.
Sorry, it's speaking.
The biggest, by the way.
They made a patriarchy that was only free for the guys. That was the point.
My biggest, my other.
In the same way that was how the Barbie Land was for the girls before.
Biggest critique: the Will Ferrell character makes no sense. They just were like, "What if we just Will Ferrell will come and he will do the elf routine, and he'll just do that for like 20 minutes, and it'll be totally unfunny." But
he doesn't like
his
Will
motivations
Ferrell.
make no sense. None of the
He just doesn't like Will Ferrell.
motivations make any sense.
Okay.
Like
No,
the part that
those
drove me crazy.
characters were
It's not
just-
even the politics because I've seen.
Yep. I was going to say, those characters just felt like they were dropped in there and they were attempting to make a couple of
Maybe.
jokes. I did like that one speech where it wasn't even a
They were there to make money, baby. It's pretty solid.
speech, but where they were trying to be as woke as possible. Like those, because they were, the men running the female doll company and they were trying to, be up to date on the current thing and the progressive thing. That made me laugh because it's just normal.
Well, what's funny is that
like every Pride Month, basically.
like what's funny is that they were making a social criticism on corporations who pretend to care about issues, and like it's funny that Ben didn't resonate with that, even though he talks about that every day on his program, right? So I don't understand why he wouldn't like that point.
That's what they do. And so that made me chuckle a bit. But other than
I didn't actually get that from it because I wasn't really watching it.
it felt like he didn't offer anything to the film. He was just there and it was kind of like a funny montage
Well,
of him trying
Oh, it's a comedy, and he was funny.
to get to Barbie Land. But
It's
other than
The
that,
entire.
He's funny. He's a comedian, and he was a funny comedian. That's it.
I mean, this goes again. Ironically, the thing that upset me about the film was not actually the politics, because I assume every left.
That's the only thing that offended you and upset you about the film, and then you work from there. You're just lying at this point.
film is going to be left wing. The thing that upset me about the film is that it was a waste of my time. Like, do not be so lazy as.
No, it wasn't. You made thousands and thousands of dollars with your own ad shit. You didn't waste your time at all. You saw a movie, and you didn't even watch it, but you went into the movie already with a narrative, and you made sure you filtered through that narrative so you can make a video that was a horrible, unflushed out perspective of it that got you like 4 million views.
Writers, like the plotting made me absolutely insane. I mean, the fact that they go to the real world, and now we're told by the Mattel Corporation that this is a crisis. Why is this a crisis? Will Ferrell says something unthinkable will happen.
they don't say what it is.
And then what is the unthinkable thing? And they're like, we won't even explain it. I don't know. Something unthinkable. Okay, so now.
It's just something unthinkable. They were basically referring to how like it will tear the fabric between both worlds in some. Yes, it was a little lazy because it's a comedy, and it's supposed to be funny first, and then the story around it is like secondary. I don't understand. This is how all comedies are.
Now you're just being lazy. Now you're just being incredibly lazy. Will Ferrell, his character, who's supposed to be driving the plot, right? Because he is the plot device by which they're attempting to capture Barbie and Ken gets to go back, and then they have to, for some reason, they follow them into Barbie Land and all of the rest of this. His character goes something like this. I am a man, I run a female-led corporation, and the women have to be put back in the box, literally. Literally, we have to put the women back in the box because all we care about is profit.
Yes.
Then he's told that the Ken doll is going to outsell the Barbie doll. And he says, no, actually, we are the Barbie corporation. I have to stand up for women. And he makes that flip inside of 5 seconds. And you're like, well, hold up. Are you the emblem of evil capitalism?
Yeah, it was a little lazy. Okay.
Like in the Lego movie? Or are you like an actual feminist? What's the deal? And this sort of divide runs all the way through.
This is at most a pedantic criticism about it's a nitpick criticism. Like, yeah, that's a nitpick criticism. I had the same criticism. Some of the stuff was just like they just like this is what happens because we need to move the story forward. But since it's not Game of Thrones, I don't care. It's a fucking Barbie movie that's meant to be a comedy.
Through the film, let's talk about who you trust. You shouldn't trust big tech with your.
Don't trust big tech. Come to our. Don't trust big tech, guys. Come to our big tech website.
Super currency.
Gold
into hell, you know, it gets.
Wow.
Like looking at Greta Gerwig to 98.
Awesome.
That gets you in touch with my friends over at Birch Gold to get started today. And again, looking at Greta Gerwig's body of work, it's not surprising that it runs this way. Look at Noah Baumbach's body of work.
Yep.
Like,
but I will say,
to
Ben,
me, this movie is basically like bad comedic version of A Marriage Story.
That was funny. And Marriage Story was also a very good movie that Ben criticized.
A bunch of self-absorbed people who don't have any deeper values, who are essentially making bad decisions for children.
Okay,
that's basically what A Marriage Story is, and I think that's what this movie is.
My favorite was when he constantly said that this movie is for 7-year-olds, even though the rating was PG-13. That was my favorite criticism from Ben.
Did you like Lady Bird? Because Lady Bird is one of my all-time favorite movies.
I like Hank Hill more.
I think Lady Bird
is
is wildly overrated.
Oh, again, as like a young woman.
I didn't hate.
I love that
I didn't
movie.
hate Lady Bird. I didn't hate Lady Bird.
I also love.
And at the very end, again, Greta Gerwig does try to buy back some religion. Again, the out to Lady Bird is the one she doesn't use in Barbie. Right? The out in Lady Bird is at the very end. The girl realizes that the value system that she has been pursuing is actually not the right value system, and she goes to church and she calls her mother.
She goes back to her Catholic upbringing.
So she actually.
And I also
So wouldn't it be lazy if she used that ending in another movie too?
Or at least to a religious background, right?
I also enjoyed Frances Ha, which she and her husband did together, and I think that I also enjoyed her.
It sounds like she makes movies for women, and Ben isn't a woman. I mean, this is not that hot take.
Her adaptation of Little Women. I think that the older one was better, but I do love, and I said this at the beginning of my review, I just enjoy Greta Gerwig in general. Like, I remember sitting at a SAG, you're going to hate this, Ben. I was sitting at a SAG Q&A with some director circle with Greta Gerwig, and I was so inspired that I went home and I wrote her a letter, like, thanking her for Lady Bird, because I loved the movie.
Okay.
Okay, so you're a fangirl for Greta Gerwig. This is not a fair conversation.
I am, but I will.
Like,
okay, so I am. That's why I said.
You like this person? Fuck you. You'll never give us an objective opinion. Here's my. I didn't watch the movie, by the way.
At the beginning of my review is that I like her in general, but I will say I do not want to see what she's going to do with the Chronicles of Narnia because she's doing the adaptation. She's going to absolutely butcher that, and it's interesting because she keeps having these. I just want to know about her upbringing in a way because she keeps kind of dropping in these religious themes and these more spiritual questions, and then never really answering them, and it feels like she herself, Greta, is grappling with a lot of this. I don't know how she was brought up.
She's a lapsed Catholic. She's a lapsed Catholic. She was raised Catholic, is my understanding. Okay. And then she dropped away from the church. And so she's in search of a value system, and that's pretty clear in her work. Right? Is that she's constantly in search of a value system. So Lady Bird is really about her. I mean, it's about her.
It is.
She was not raised Catholic. She was I believe she was a Presbyterian who went to a Catholic high school. So that story is really about her. And so the sort of thing that she is searching for is the thing that she has forbidden from herself, which is to take religion seriously enough to actually take it seriously. And so that's why I think the C.S. Lewis adaptation is going to be a disaster area, because the thing that C.S. Lewis is calling for you to do in Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe is to be a Christian. That is what the book is about. And so her actually adapting that, like I don't see how she's going to adapt that. I mean, there's a lot of critiques of that in Little Women too. Is that there's some Christian thematic in Little Women that actually gets kind of ripped out by Greta Gerwig.
Well, she makes it much more girl bossy than the books actually were, which is unfortunate. I love the actors in it. I thought
read the book.
That was great, but there was a lot, and that usually happens when books are adapted into movies. You lose a lot of those deeper meanings, which is unfortunate, but especially when they're exactly. But I really think that's going to happen with Chronicles of Narnia.
Cool.
Well, I mean, again, what's fascinating about Gerwig, just as
is this the Barbie
as a director
anymore,
and as a writer, is that she knows enough to ask some of the right questions, but she is forbidden from answering them in any proper way. Right, like so that's the thing that's actually interesting about the Barbie movie. I will say that I think it fails because of this. I think like on an ideological level, I think it fails because of this. As I said, I think when you set up the problem as irrepressible fear of death,
that's not the problem of the minute. It's a part. Okay,
your solution just doesn't exist.
Okay,
like your solution is sort of secular rote feminism, and everybody's unhappy. Like I think that she's almost critiquing her own worldview unconsciously. I don't think she meant to do it. Right, there's some people who are doing a Straussian reading where she meant to do this, and that when you watch it, what you're actually meant to take away is that feminism is a failure, and that what you actually need is to get married.
I was about to say I think most of it is an adaptation. No, I think most of it is an accident that inadvertently she was dropping these things and they're not understanding it. Okay, one question I have. Have you heard, this is going around on Twitter right now, of neo-conservatism? Ken-servatism?
Oh, because it's Ken.
Is this the people who are very into the Kendom?
Yes, they are. There's all these men who suddenly feel seen by Ken. And they're like, this is it. This is me as a Western man being so beaten down by women. This is in an ideal world. This is what I would do. This is my story. And they're painting him as this Greek tragic hero. And, the tragic hero, does all these wrong things, but has no real ill intent because he just doesn't understand. And so he obviously has...
Yeah, that's how the movie painted. Ben said he was the bad guy. Ken's not the bad guy. Ken's a victim of circumstances. There really aren't necessarily any bad guys in the movie. Which is a theme that we're seeing more and more, like in Kanto. There's no bad guy in the movie. There's just good people with good intentions doing bad things, right? Let's say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Yeah, what's going on, brother? Yeah, Ryan Gosling is literally me. Gosling, whatever. Fuck. Yeah, I don't know.
Some moral standing, but he obviously...
Can I just say, I'm hungry right now. I made such a beautiful steak and asparagus. It was so fucking good. We ate all of it already. I want more.
Created destruction. And it's all of these guys on Twitter. And I'm not kidding, last night there were so many of these threads. And they're like the Ken uprising. And they feel like Ryan Gosling is speaking to him. Also, something that is very funny is that this was, they were trying to create this feminist movie, all of this stuff. The only character that people are talking about, also in left-wing circles, is Ken. They love Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, he was the movie. He was most of the movie. I loved Ken. He was incredible. The music number, I don't even like him. Well, actually, I kind of do. I'm gonna go to the theater with my wife soon because I love her a lot. But it was incredible. And the other guy too. Who's the Asian guy? He's really good too. He was in the show about the Korean American or Korean Asian. Oh my God, Jesus, Korean Canadians that went to Canada or Koreans that went to Canada that are Korean. I forgot what it's called, but it was a good show. I liked him a lot. Like he was also very good.
I have not seen one Twitter thread, one article about how amazing Margot Robbie is and she's stunning and she's great. But the Barbie character...
I've seen plenty of those, but okay.
...was flat. Like the most endearing character. Number one, I liked America Ferrara and the daughter character just because I like mother-daughter relationships portrayed in movies and TV. I think that just comes from being a young woman. But also, I just loved Ryan Gosling. I loved Ken. He was so endearing. And I think it's funny that in this feminist Barbie movie, the male character is actually who people enjoy. And so...
Yeah, because they wanted him to be a likable character. It was intentional that he was enjoyed. Now, maybe they didn't intend for him to be enjoyed that much, but Ben thinks that the movie is supposed to be anti-male and anti-Ryan Gosling. Like, that's his perspective. I saw it.
Oh. That cracks me up a little bit.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure that's true. For sure that's true. I mean, one of my critiques of the film also is that is that when Ken comes back, so first of all, all the Barbies are Ken's supposed to be an idiot, right? All the Barbies are like on the Barbie Supreme Court and arguing Citizens United and all this kind of stuff. Ken takes over that place in 5 seconds flat.
Yeah.
Right, in 5 seconds flat, he walks in, and suddenly it's Kendom. This moron took over all of the matriarchy in 1 second.
Dude's
1
rule,
second
Ben.
with no actual compulsion. Right? Apparently, we're amazing.
Yeah, you would say that's one of like the lazy aspects of the show or the movie. Is that like he had to take over, so he did just take over. Like that would be one of the criticisms.
At everything, we're so good at it that we can mind warp Greta Gerwig to have the men take over the Barbie land in 1 second flat. And apparently, I will say that again. I think all of these things are accidents, but they are happy accidents. Is that all of the Barbies enjoying the patriarchy?
Yeah.
Is one of the best things about the film.
Right?
All the Barbies for a hot second are like, this is actually kind of nice. Like we're cheerleaders and like we're bringing men food.
Well, yeah, but their argument is that they're brainwashed and they get brainwashed eventually. So okay.
And we're kind of enjoying ourselves, and they actually have to be informed by Weird Barbie and Company that actually they're miserable.
That's such
which
a weird
is kind of
part
funny.
Of the, yes.
Right? I mean, first of all, it assumes that
sure.
It's super weird. It's suggesting women have no agency, really, right? They have to be told by the feminine.
I think that you just explained it. It's in our society, women. The point they're making, whether you agree with it or not, is in our society, women don't have agency. That's literally the point that they were trying to make. It's almost like women don't have agency. That's the point, and that's the subtextual argument is that in a male-dominated society, women don't have agency. Now, you might disagree with that narrative, but it makes perfect sense until America Ferrara empathizes with the women and advocates for women's.
That they're miserable. Like until then, they were. By the way, that Kendom doesn't even include the part of because it can't. It doesn't even include the part of the patriarchy that the feminists actually say is part of the patriarchy, which is childbearing.
Yep.
Right? Because the truth is that a thing that women like to do, historically speaking, is have babies and raise them.
Yes.
I know.
Like
I'm married to a doctor wife, and we have 4 of them. Okay, so it's a thing that women are into, and the women are into the patriarchy even without the babies. So that, like, again, I think.
What are you talking about? It's not. Women don't have an issue with raising babies. Women have an issue with being treated as less than because that value of making babies is considered like less than the value that a man contributes. How many times I've seen people say men they shouldn't be able to vote because they don't go sign up for the draft when like men can't have babies. It's like it's the looking down upon the roles that women traditionally can bring and saying it's less than the roles that men bring. It's like, well, men can protect women, so they should be valued more. They should be able to vote. You shouldn't be able to vote as a woman because you can't fight. But it's like, but women create life. Well, we don't care about that. We don't value that, even though it should be valued equally. So like what you're saying, you just don't even know what you're talking about.
I think that Gerwig, because I think she is a conflicted person, is operating. I'd be fascinated to find out which parts of the script Noah Baumbach wrote and which parts of the script Greta Gerwig wrote, actually. I think it'd be really, really interesting to find, because they co-wrote the script.
Yeah.
I would bet you, and this is not...
You know, they probably wrote it together, Ben. They probably didn't write individual pieces. But okay, whatever.
Stand for
what
Greta
is this?
Gerwig.
The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Which in some instances was written differently by each person. Interesting. Fun fact.
Again, I'm not a huge fan, but certainly not to your extent. I would bet money that the worst parts of the script were actually not written by Greta Gerwig.
Yep.
I would bet you the worst parts of the script were almost universally written by Noah Baumbach.
Interesting. That's a really interesting take, especially just because of her track record of struggling with these questions. And obviously, they were in there. The other thing with the Ken and Barbie relationship that you just talked about, where the women had to be informed, that also makes me laugh because that's basically what happened with feminism in our world. Like, women were very happy, and it took other women to come to them and say, no, you are actually very, very miserable. So once again...
What are you talking about? What? Women were really happy. I don't think that that's true. What do you mean? I'm so confused. Your argument is that women were always happy and that dirty feminism changed that? You wouldn't be doing what you're doing now without feminism. What a dumb point. What? There were women who wanted to uphold the historic standings of like the society because they were effectively in some capacity brainwashed, which is probably what this film speaks to. But women, there's no actual woman nowadays that's advocating to go back. Like, and there's no actual movement of women that's like, we really want to go back, because they rather have the ability to be free than be violently beaten by their husbands, and the church to go, that's a thing. That's just kind of a thing that happens now, you know? So, okay. Oh my God, these guys are fucking mobilized everywhere.
Again, I think it's an accident where I was kind of laughing at it because, like, okay, yes, this is exactly what happened. And I chuckle at it because it's so obvious that,
these two are so dumb.
To me, it is obvious that this could be a commentary on our world. I'm sure she was not intending it that way because she thinks that she's actually saving these women, which of course is what feminists actually think. So I think you can spin it 100 different ways, but there were a lot of, as you say, happy accidents in there that definitely made it more enjoyable because the movie was chaotic.
Hey guys, I have to figure out a way to make it seem like I partially agree with Ben Shapiro on his dog shit take. Oh, my fucking tits are literally spinning out of control right now. Interesting.
There were obvious plot holes, but it was silly.
It's a mess.
But it was silly and it was fun. Really, and my point in doing my review was that I had a lot of women writing to me saying, like, I feel really bad because I enjoyed seeing it. And I was like, you don't have to feel bad about enjoying a fun movie. Like, there obviously have been better movies, and you know, Oppenheimer is probably much better. I'm seeing that this week, but you don't need to feel.
My understanding, and I could be wrong about this, Oppenheimer was about how like capitalism is bad, and Ben said he liked it. Is that the wrong assertion about the movie, or is it actually what the movie's about? Is it about how capitalism isn't good? Could fix her. Yeah, I bet you could, Andy.
Bad. For enjoying a fun movie and enjoying shirtless Ryan Gosling doing a dance.
So
Emma super chatted $1.99. I could fix her.
I think you could, brother. I agree with that. I agree with you, my man.
Okay, so I'm not going to talk about that. Two final points I want to get your comment on.
Okay.
Apparently, I unconsciously even dressed like Ken. So this is the thing. But
maybe I should see Oppenheimer with my wife soon. It's just 3 fucking hours. You know what I mean? Like, that's a lot of hours. 3 whole of them. You know, that was the meme that was going around. Is that I was wearing the Ken outfit. It's a black jeans and black shirt, guys. That's
your Halloween costume. You already figured it out.
Exactly, we're done. So 2 things that I want to get your take on, because these actually I think are fairly one. They're kind of the same critique. Who is this movie aimed at? If it's aimed at young women, again, I think the messaging is wrong, but okay. But one of my problems is
it's aimed at women in general, just all women. Okay, cool.
Is that when I went to the theater, there were moms bringing like their 8-year-old girls.
Really?
This is not an appropriate movie for kids who are under 14, 15 years old.
No.
Well, 13. It's literally labeled PG-13. And, that's a parental problem.
That's not.
Right, it's just not. I mean, it's got a bunch of jokes.
I don't think it's that big of a deal. Like, if I had an 8-year-old, I'd probably bring them too, because any of the jokes that were, like, overtly sexual, I don't think the kids would get them anyway. I don't think it would really be that big of a deal. Like, I don't really care. So... Like, I'm gonna beat you off, I don't care. Like, it's not an 8-year-old isn't gonna die, but okay.
jokes and references.
Yep. I did not think that it was marketed towards young people, but I am also like children.
For
but I also am not
13
fed that kind of marketing. I don't have kids.
plus.
I'm not 8 years old. I'm not on that, part of the internet. All of the marketing that I saw, all the advertising that I saw, the people who were talking about it were all women ages 21 to 30, I would say. That seemed like the target audience.
The reason that I say that is because the previews, the reason I say that is because, so let me ask you this. What previews were before the Barbie movie?
They did not offer a lot of the plot. It was very, very hidden. It was just colorful, fun, jumping up and down.
No, I'm not asking about the previews of
It was movies that would appeal to kids. Yes. Okay. What's your point? What movie? Okay. So what?
Barbie? Right. So I'm not asking about the previews
previews
of Barbie. I'm asking when you went to see the Barbie movie, what were the previews that came before?
Yeah, like dogs movies. But guess what? 13-year-olds like movies about dogs talking. That was the kind of stuff. So, okay.
Oh my gosh. The only one I remember is Trolls, because I have a couple friends that love the movie Trolls and Trolls 2. I think that's the only one that I remember.
So I'm sure you saw the same.
Yeah, there's plenty of adults jokes in every single cartoon that you ever watch, like Billy and Mandy. Plenty of adult shit in there. It just seems like a pedantic criticism.
Trailer reel that I did because all the trailers were driven at children, all of them. Right?
Shit.
It was Trolls 3.
That is such a good
point. And it was
Ben,
Teenage Mutant Ninja
Ben, this is such a fucking awesome point, Ben. I'm actually gonna shit my pants. Oh fuck, Ben, I'm gonna fucking fart and poop all over my pants. Ben, you're making good points, Ben. Ah!
Yeah.
I don't think it's that good of a point. It doesn't matter.
Right, so they're clearly they think that this market is for 25-year-old moms and 60.
No, they think that it's for girls 13 and up. That's the rating of the movie.
6-year-old daughters, or rather 35-year-old moms and 6-year-old daughters.
But to play devil's advocate,
that is
to play devil's advocate, do you think they ran that trailer reel because they knew that regardless of how they marketed it, regardless of them saying this is PG-13 and them saying, it's because I watched an interview with Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie, and they were talking about how, they created this for women, and they were asked if kids could go see it, and they're like, I don't really think that they'll understand it. Do you think that they were worried, that the theaters were worried that moms were going to bring their daughters, and so they went ahead and just made it family friendly? I don't know if I would put that on.
It's a fucking Barbie movie. And they put some adult themes in it, so it would appeal to adults. It was funny. Children's cartoons do this too, so that the adults watching will enjoy it too and be more likely to put it on for their kids. It's not that big of a deal.
Production team, I would put that more on audiences wanting to bring their daughters to a Barbie movie.
Right, so I'm not sure who makes the call as to which previews go before which movie. I assume the studio has to sign off on which previews go before a movie. Like if you're showing a G-rated movie, you don't want Oppenheimer being your lead-in. So I assume that somebody is approving that. The point I'm making is that I do think that this was mismarketed in the sense that not in terms of the success. Obviously, it's the greatest marketing campaign I've ever seen by far. It's not close. But in terms of the sort of what was marketed, the preview is Enchanted, and then the delivery is a feminist screed. And so there is that gap. And that includes the fact that there is, in fact, a man playing a woman as a Barbie.
Yeah.
And this may fly over the heads of, a bunch of the kids who are in the audience because, again, it's a man who's had many, many surgeries.
Well, yeah, because it's a trans woman, and they're very passable. And they didn't even reference it, which was the funny part, that you're complaining about the existence of something that kids won't even see. This is indicative of the whole thing. The kids aren't going to see it. They're not going to understand it unless their parents explicitly tell them. It's okay. Whatever.
And is wearing a lot of makeup and all the rest of this. So it may be that they just don't notice that it's a man who's playing a woman, but everybody who knows knows.
Yeah, it's a woman.
Yep.
And in fact, one of the scenes is Ryan Gosling hitting on the man playing the woman.
Yeah,
I appreciated that was not a huge topic of conversation, though. And that is such a low bar, and my standards are literally in the ground about that. But I went in I went in expecting, because they had made a big deal about hiring that person, I think Hari Neff. And I was worried about that, and that was the one thing that I had.
You like how she says that person? You heard that? She's afraid to express herself to Ben. She doesn't think it's a man. She knows it's a woman. She knows that it's a trans woman. And do you like how Sam, I want to die. Do you like how she doesn't feel like she could say to Ben, that's a woman? It's funny. It's like that person. She says them by their name, and they calls them that person because they're a person.
I had braced myself for, and it was a pleasant surprise that it just kind of nobody acknowledged it. Just like with the body positive Barbie, it wasn't acknowledged. I was like, okay, at least you're giving audiences that we just moved on from it. It wasn't a huge topic.
Oh, like the overweight woman, yeah.
I feel like in everything we watch these days, gender identity is a huge portion of the conversation. So that was at least a point.
Like I say again, I think that the end of the film sort of rebuts the casting.
Yeah.
The end of the film is Barbie becomes a woman by going to the gynecologist. So
that's kind
of awkward. Okay, well, we can agree to disagree on Barbie. The things I think we agree on: good production.
She becomes a person because she learns to like her emotions. It's nothing to do with her gender. So you could have literally just made it a man as the main character, which they did, Ryan Gosling, and it would have worked just fine.
design. I think we agree that Ryan Gosling is the funniest thing in the film.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that we agree that there are serious political problems inside the film. You are just willing to overlook those because you're much younger than I am. And also because you are a representative of the young female perspective, whereas I am older and wiser, and thus can see the threat to American culture and morality that exists in a movie seen by millions of people preaching feminist garbage. Okay,
and
Brett,
you don't love Greta Gerwig.
As always. That's true. I do not love Greta Gerwig.
It's
always great to talk to you, Brett,
shit.
and hopefully you'll eventually cultivate better taste in movies as you grow in age and wisdom. Alrighty, guys, the rest of the show continues right now. You're not going to want to miss it. We'll be joined by...
Okay, well, that was terrible. Ben just doesn't get it, so that's something.